Okay, let's make an NBA video. Why don't we? I don't just talk football. Every now and then I like to talk about other sports when I have the opportunity. And I thought this could be just an interesting video. There's been a lot of talk about NBA ratings and what are things that can be done to quote unquote fix the NBA. And listen, I think part of it is just a marketing thing. Let's get back to talking about the actual game itself. I think people will be more interested in that kind of thing. And sometimes just as a league, you just need a rebuilding year, right? Like, yeah, sure, Tyrese Halliburton entering this postseason, not a lot of people probably knew who he even was, but now he's become a big star, right? Same thing with SGA, Jalen Brunson, like all that stuff, right? But there still are things that can be fixed, and I made a similar video with the NFL. I figured this could be fun, so let's get into. I have 9 potential fixes to the NBA to make the league better, in my opinion. This is coming from a somewhat casual NBA fan. I don't, I watch playoffs and stuff of that, but how could they get me more invested? Well, let's get into the list. These are some ideas that I have. First, the up 3 fouling stuff, which is just something that they have to fix, and I think that they're going to this offseason. But essentially, if you're unaware, there's been kind of a big thing in the NBA of when Team A is playing Team B. Like, I'll use an example that happened recently. The Thunder were playing the Timberwolves, and the Thunder led 3 points, but the Timberwolves had the ball. Okay, let's see if they can hit a 3 to tie the game, right? Well, no, the Thunder kept fouling the Timberwolves, so that way the Timberwolves never had an opportunity to try and hit a game-tying 3. It's a good strategy, but it's very much not fun to watch. I want to see a team try and hit a 3, so there has to be some fix to that. There's been a lot of talk about what the exact fix could be. I think you could just do, in that specific situation, you get an extra free throw if something like that happens. That would be my fix. I think I would say if it appears as though it might have been an intentional foul in that situation, then the team that is shooting gets an extra free throw, so that way they have a chance to potentially tie it up. A lot of people have countered that by saying, well, couldn't you make it seem like it's an accident, but when it's actually intentional? But that would be so difficult to pull off, and it'd be questionable if you're going to pull it off, that if you fail, you've just given the opposing team a chance to tie the game, which probably wouldn't be worth the risk in that situation, and at least would take away some of the obvious ones. You still at least get an opportunity to hit a 3. So that'd be my my logic with that. But honestly, there's other fixes that also work. That feels like something we can fix. Don't spend too long on it. My next rule change I would make is timeouts in the final minute only advance the ball. This is one that drives me crazy. It's worse in college basketball, but it's still bad in the NBA. I want, like, what's one, I believe it was Al Michaels who said, one of the great things about the NHL is the final 2 minutes take roughly 2 minutes, right? Like, I like seeing things go quickly. And I'm not saying, like, there shouldn't be any clock stoppages, because sometimes those can build suspense, right? But it's way too much, especially when you feel like you know where the game is going. Sometimes you want to just turn it off, because it's like, I'm barely watching the game at this point, you know? Like, I like timeouts to advance the ball, but let's not slow down the game. So any clock stoppage, you call a timeout, you can't go over plays. Maybe you can get 1 in the final minute, something like that. But like, even that, let's make it 30 seconds. Let's make it quick, because the game slows down way too much. So the way I would do it is in the final minute, if you call a timeout, it can advance the ball, but that's all it can do. You can't go over anything else. Next up is let more physical play go. This has been something that's been talked about. And like, listen, ultimately, you can't just let it be. I'm not saying you let it be the 80s or the 90s. Like, you don't go all the way back to that. Ultimately, we want to see the players healthy. We want to see them physically be able to play the entire series. I watch a lot of hockey. I definitely don't want it to go that way, where it's like guys are getting injured, like, and it's a whole thing. Like, I don't want that, right? But there is sometimes when it feels like they're calling a foul just because the guy missed the shot, right? Like, just because there's traffic and a guy missed the shot doesn't mean you have to call a foul. And I feel like they need to let more of it go. I'm not saying there is a line. There's always, a way that you want to make this stuff work. And I get that typically people like to see the ball go in the hoop. That's part of the fun. But slowing everything down, yes, it will result in some cooler shots because you're more open. It also results in more flopping and things of that nature. So I think just if if there's the SGA play where he runs into the guy who's keeping with him to then draw a foul, if you start letting that go, well, now he's not going to do that because now you're wasting a possession, right? So I think that would be a key way to help out with all of that. Next up is round 1 should be 5 games, which, again, I know that you're potentially losing, a home playoff game, and there's revenue there, and you don't want to lose that. But I still feel like it would help everything else. It would help get people more invested early on, because realistically, round one almost feels like a tune-up for the actual playoffs, and you want to get people really invested then. If you get invested in round one, you're going to then stay invested in round two, and so on and so forth. I think it would help in the long run, ratings-wise, and just as a fan, it would be more interesting, right? For me, at least. I feel like having a team that I expect to win the series lose game one. If it's a 7-game series, whatever, they're going to win. If it's a 5-game series, well, now they have to win, 3 out of their next 4 games. Okay, this is not a guarantee anymore the way it felt like, and usually it would still happen, but it would just be more interesting. Okay, my next fix is only top 4 seeds make the playoffs outright. The others go straight into a play-in, which, okay, wait a second. This is a lot's going on here. So let me explain exactly how I would make this work, and then let me explain why I would make it this way. So first things first, you would have who's usually the 5 seed play the 8 seed, and you have who's usually the 6 seed play the 7 seed. So it's similar to how the play-in ultimately works, but a little bit different. The winner of the 5 versus 8 seed and the winner of the 6 versus 7 seed, those two teams just both outright make the playoffs. The higher of those seeds that won, so if the 5 seed won, then they would be the 5 seed, and then the winner of 6-7 would be the 6 seed. Then 8 and 7 would play 9 and 10 in the way that the seeding makes the most sense. The best team plays the worst team. They are also single elimination. The 2 losers are out. The 2 winners end up being the 7 and the 8 seed. So that's how it would work, which I think would be exciting in its own right. Maybe a bit more exciting than the way it currently is, where it kind of just feels like, whoever wins is maybe going to be just cannon fodder for the 1 and 2 seed. Now you have teams to actually maybe have a chance to have a deep playoff run in the play-in tournament. But what I also like about this, and why I would ultimately think it's a good idea to implement, is it makes the regular season more interesting. Because everyone's talking about, how do we make the regular season interesting? Do you get rid of some games? Well, they're not going to get rid of games, because that's, if you get rid of 20 games, that's 10 home games. That's losing revenue. They don't want to do that. I think a big part of it is that really, if you're a 1 through 6 seed, it just doesn't matter really where you end up. If you're 1 or you're 6, it matters a little bit, but I don't think teams care that much. But if you can make it that hey, you kind of got to be a top 4 seed or you're in trouble, well, now there's going to be more urgency to try and make sure that you are one of those top 4 seeds. So I think because of that, that's the benefit. Of course, there would be disadvantages as well. You could get some worse matchups in round 1 and things of that nature. So there is that. But ultimately, I think I would hope that it could make the regular season a bit more fascinating, because you would also want to make sure that you're the 5 seed. That's a big advantage, getting to play an 8 seed as opposed to having to go down and play a 7 seed. Right? It gives you an advantage in that situation where you wouldn't want to be in a spot where your season could come down to 2 bad games. Next up, so I have 3 left after this one. No replay. This is a take I've had for a lot of sports. I think basketball, it slows the game down so much. Just get rid of it. We're still going to have bad calls. It's still not going to be perfect. Let's just get rid of replay altogether. Sure. If you want to do it in the final minute, I'm kind of okay with that. But even that, I just feel I don't know. I want to watch the sport and just watch the sport, and I'm okay with some calls getting wrong. People don't tend to agree with me on that, but that's my take, so I'm giving my opinions here. And while we're on the subject of rule changes that people would not like, but again, it's my video, so that's what we're going with, fouls result in auto points. That means automatically the points are scored, except for the final minute. If it's a shooting foul, instead of shooting 2 free throws, you just get the 2 points, which, again, if we're allowing more of the physical stuff, would be better, right? Because now it's only happening when it's clearly a foul, would made it hard for you to be able to score. We're just giving you the points instead of having you shoot free throws. Final minute, you have to then hit the free throw. I think that's more fun and makes it more exciting. But for everything else, let's just keep the game going. Let's give you points. Let's keep things moving. Number 8 on this list of 9 that are, again, in no particular order. This is a fun one. So this is the bottom 2 teams draft last. And what I mean by last is not first, last in the draft. So if you finish with the worst record in basketball, you will end up picking 29th that draft. And if you have the second worst record, then you will pick 30th. And the way I thought it could be fun to do it is, instead of just having it be outright, what you're doing is the worst team will play the 4th worst team. The second worst team will play the 3rd worst team. The winner of those games will pick 1st and 2nd. The loser of those games will then pick at the end of the draft. So essentially, the whole concept here is that you're still going to be rewarding teams that finished poorly. You're not going to have a Dallas Mavericks situation where a team ends up getting benefited by losing into play-in, right? You're now going with a normal draft order the way the NFL does it, but you're also hopefully getting rid of tanking this way because now you don't want to risk having the worst team and then losing that final game because then you don't even get a good draft pick. You end up with the worst draft pick and you've gotten further away. And if you're a GM, like you only get so many years. If you have that happen, you might things might go very poorly. So it's almost like adding the soccer relegations philosophy, but just to the draft. I think it could be fun. Again, the issue is could you get so bad that you keep losing there? But I just feel like if you're a team that has, you have a salary cap, you have free agency, you could sign enough players to make sure you're not a bottom 2 team or a bottom 4 team. Like, you could potentially do that. So I think it would almost make things work a little bit better that way. Get rid of tanking while at the same time still rewarding teams that deserve to, that need help, basically. And it would just be fun. Like, imagine if, the Wizards and the Hornets are playing each other, and the winner is going to get the first overall pick, and the loser is going to be picking 29th. That's that's a game I would watch. And, now you have a reason to watch a Hornets-Wizards game, right? How exciting would that be? And maybe you could call it, the Biggest Loser Bowl or something like that. So that way the players playing still care and want to not be the worst team, right? To me, that seems like it would be something that would be fun. And finally, if you don't want to do that silly thing, which I know the NBA does not, you could just do the get rid of the draft altogether, which seems weird. But again, if we're trying to get rid of tanking, this is a way you could do it, which is you get rid of the draft. Anyone's free to offer these new players whatever contract they want. You could even change the max contract structure if you feel like you need to in this situation. Give them an opportunity to get a lot more money right away. And essentially just say, hey, if you're the Wizards and you want to, give someone a max contract right away and hope that they're able to develop, well, that's an option that you can make. This way, you're not going to try to be bad because there's no benefit in being bad now. So that way, if you're a team like the Heat, who end up winning the play-in, and now they don't have an opportunity to get the first overall pick. Well, now it's that doesn't hurt you if you make or miss the play-in, so you might as well try and make it. So that's something you could do as well, although I know the draft is fun and all of that stuff. So I like my last suggested better, but this one would also work if you're trying to get rid of tanking. So yeah, those are my very silly, some are more serious than others, but silly and then some serious fixes to the NBA. Let me know in the comments below. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.